Okay then, going to be looking now at part of the Unit 1 philosophy, which covers the end of life. Now, some of you have only just started to use the videos that I've been making, so you may have missed something that I mentioned in my ethics videos that I've made prior to the philosophy units. And I'm going to give you now the ISBN number to a very helpful revision guide. It's this one here. And I sincerely advise you get a hold of it. Year 11s of 2014. Your exam, I believe, is on the 9th. No, sorry, not the 9th. The 11th. Wednesday, the 11th of June. So you haven't really got long until the exam. But I would certainly advise that in the time that you've got left, it would definitely be worth getting this book. Okay, and so just try and get hold of it if you can. Right then. So part of the what's it called? Yeah, the end of life. Part of end of life unit is that we must talk about the body and the soul. Now, across many religions, the soul is usually taught in different formats, but all in all, it will usually come down to the soul being something that is eternal and it will always live on. But we need to know, what does Christianity teach about it? And like I said, it teaches that the soul lives on forever. And it also teaches that while the body dies on earth, the soul lives on, either in heaven or hell. And it also teaches that the soul is what actually separates us humans from animals, in that animals don't have a soul. However, some people, such as St. Francis of Assisi, are one of the many people who don't actually agree with this view. Okay, it might be worth putting this idea in your argument section for a question E. In that some Christians don't actually abide by this, they don't agree with it at all. And we've also got the idea that the soul is a non-physical part of the person. Here is just a little extract from my RS book that I've scanned for you. Okay, now it's a little flow diagram of the stuff about the soul, really. You've got two main chunks about the soul. Okay, you've got the idea that it's holy, and you've got the idea of dualism there, but I'm pushed for time here, so I'm going to move on. But just the basics that you need to know, like say for example here, one of the holy aspects of the soul is that it connects us to God, and that reflects on the image of God inside us, and this is known as imago Dei. And it's words like these and phrases like these that you want to be using in the exam. Okay, now if you're going to note some of this down for yourself, I should just point out that here, this abbreviation of JC, that's Jesus Christ, and I believe that's all the abbreviations I've used in there. Yes, have I? Yeah, that's all. Right then, oh, that should be hidden, sorry. Right, okay, now we've got to look at life after death. One key thing that we need to know when it comes to life after death is the idea of Judgment Day, okay, and this is where God judges people on whether or not they're worthy of heaven, and this all revolves around the life that they've had. Another thing that we've got to know is that in Christianity, the afterlife that is referred to is either heaven or hell. Now, some Christians, they believe that Judgment Day happens as soon as someone dies. However, there are many other Christians that disagree with this. Okay, there's quite a few of them believe that this form of judgment will happen on an actual day in the future, and I believe that's pronounced parousia or parousia, but it's also known as the second coming, and this would be the second coming of Jesus. They believe that Jesus is going to return to us again, and that on this day, those who actually have chosen to ignore the teachings of Jesus from back in the day and the Bible, they will be sent to hell for eternal punishment. Roman Catholics, however, they believe in a place called purgatory, and we're going to get onto that in a bit more detail later on. But this is basically a place who those decent Christians who have sinned just a smidge get sent to, and their soul gets cleansed, almost rinsed out of all those sins that they've done, and it prepares them for heaven. And an old favourite, almost like a case study, this one almost, a good example that you want to be putting in your evidence for the exam on things like Judgment Day and life after death and all that would be the parable of the sheep and the goats, because this takes place on Judgment Day. If you don't know what this is, I'm not going to go over it now because I have gone over it in much more detail in a previous video, and if you wanna go into detail of that, then click this link up here. It will take you straight to that video. Now we've got to talk about beliefs about heaven. Now, heaven has been portrayed as many different forms over the years, and we're going to have a look at a few of them now. Okay, one of them is your stereotypical magical place with the angels sitting on the clouds playing the harp sort of thing, and that all stems from this passage in the Bible, Ezekiel 125 to 128, and it's that talks about the throne of God, like the golden throne of God of true magic and all that. We've also got a second belief that in heaven there will be no more suffering, and it's a place where God will rule the world. This comes from Revelation 4:1 to 4:8, and these are all Bible references I'm giving you here. And the third one is that when people arrive in heaven, they will see the beatific vision. This is where you see the true nature of God. Here we go. The true nature of God, the true sight of God, which will give you total happiness. And finally, you got you'll be in your physical body. Now, this is a very old idea, and philosophy and Christianity has taken a turn from this old view. But in Apostles' Creed, there's the idea that when you're in heaven, you'll be in your resurrected body. Now, this is where we go into detail about purgatory. Okay, beliefs about hell and purgatory. Here is a little extract that I've taken from this revision guide that I showed you earlier. Obviously, for copyright reasons, I can't show you the entire book or the entire page, but here's just a little chunk of it. This is all about purgatory, and again, like I said before, I'm pushed for time here, so if you want to pause here and note this down, I sincerely advise that you do. But when it comes to talking about hell and purgatory, basically purgatory is basically what I was talking about before here, where you've got the people, the Christians that have sinned a little bit, that just need their souls cleansing from those sins. And hell, well, it's not rocket science really. If you're a bad person, you're going to go to hell. Now, two examples that you might want to include in your exam when it comes to talking about hell and purgatory. You've got the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, which is in Luke 16 to 19 to 16:31. There's a link to basically what goes on for you right here, and this basically is, well, no, I'm pushed for time, so you just have to follow the link and read it on for yourself. But you've also got, again, the idea of the parable of the sheep and the goats. Salvation, redemption, and the suffering of Christ, and judgment. It's a big title, not very much to it. So, salvation, redemption, and the suffering of Christ we're going to go over now. Redemption, this is where Jesus saved people from punishment of the sins of humanity, and on top of that he actually redeemed them. And you've also got the idea of salvation. This is where Jesus saved people from the consequence of sin. That's quite a bit to do. So how does he actually do that? Well, that's something that we need to know. He does it through crucifixion on the cross. Okay, he gave his life to be able to accomplish these. So that's salvation, redemption, the suffering of Christ. Pretty simple. And then we've got to go on to judgment. Okay, there are two forms of judgment. There's one which is general judgment. And remember, all judgment is done by God. So the first one on general judgment is God's judgment on the whole of humanity, as well as the body and soul of an individual. And we've got particular judgment. This is essentially just judgment on the individual. Okay, it's God's judgment on every soul of the body of which the soul came from. And we've got funeral stuff to go through now. Okay, here's just a little thing that I found if you want to pause and just read this for yourself. Okay, it's just an image on Google Images that I've got a hold of, but it kind of just sums up the idea of Christian attitudes towards funerals. But the stuff that OCR would like you to know are the following. There's stuff that Christians do in preparation for death. Okay, this is where usually a Christian minister will always try his utmost to visit a dying Christian to help them prepare for death. This would usually be through something called the anointing of the sick, and through the anointing of the sick there's a preparation done where the sick is given a sacrament. This is known as the oil of unction, and this is given to the person who is sick or dying. We've also got we also need to know what happens at funerals, and this is funerals in Christianity are mostly based upon the biblical teachings, such as in James 5:14-15. That's a good one to look up for yourself. But there's this idea of that white flowers are put down, and the white flowers represent a new life with God, of which the dead are about to enter. And finally, you've got the priest or minister who will say his line, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and this comes from Genesis 3:19. I believe that's me done. Yes, it is. Right. Speaking directly now to the Year 11s of 2014, you really need to start revising a lot on philosophy if you haven't started already. Okay, so please do try and get hold of the study guide that I showed you before. Where is it? This one here. Okay, there's the ISBN number there. You can get a very cheap copy of it on Amazon. So yeah, get revising.